Technical difficulties, yay! So, what I was trying to break down was, kind of the four scenarios that I look at and play with. And, this is uh, um, being congruent with my energy of entering a room and observing first. So, the first is going to an event where you're networking or you're meeting people. So, I'll go into the room and then I'll just look around and just ask the question, develop my intuition. Who am I here to meet? Who looks interesting? Where do I go up? Or, I'll just play with those different scenarios. And one time I used that scenario, I picked out all three people who came up to me, and we had amazing conversations. And then once that last conversation was over, it was like, okay, it's time for me to go. So I didn't feel bad about leaving at that time. It didn't depend on anyone else or when anyone else left. And so it was honoring, my experience, how I relate to the world, and then honoring that time when it's time to leave. And I think that's what ends up happening is a lot of times we're asking questions and doing things that we really don't feel good about. Another way is a second point is when you're going up to talk to people, maybe it's time, and this is where I totally understand, let's not have the superficial conversations, but you start the conversation about, what you like about people. What do you like to get to know? For me, I love knowing people's passions, what excites them in life. And I had a cool talk with someone who was like, how do you go to these events, right? Like, you're not being the pilot. How do you introduce yourself? And now I go to events and I ask people questions about who they are. And my friend, who is a business person and does a lot of the, I'm this, I have this many kids, has that standard thing, was like, well, what else do we talk about? And I'm like, and his point was that is his passion. And in my experience, when you're asking people who they are, if what they do is their passion, then that just comes out. And, as I've gone through and played with those different scenarios on really getting to know people for who they are and what they love and how they see the world, that's really opens up those bigger conversations. And also, if the person's not responding, then that's not who you're having, let that flow and drop and walk to the next person. The third part is that those really uncomfortable situations, and I can see where my friend who was just the spouse at this next event was talking about how do we break the ice in those situations. And for me, what I found is that practice of really saying what's on your mind and what you're feeling and what the truth is. And so as I imagine those scenarios, and as I've done it, it's it's that big table with a white cloth and nobody knows each other, and we're all just sitting there kind of waiting for that person to take the lead. And usually what I find is I'll just tap into myself and just talk about how I'm feeling, like, wow, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now, and I have no idea what to say to you guys. And usually just that starts to relax everybody, and you can see everybody just go, oh, me too. Like, I hate I really dislike these things, cause, and then that creates an opening. Well, what do you like, or where would you rather be, or what, just these things where you can have these conversations where we're not all tied up. And then the last was the event when I finally decided to bring in that conversation of being a pilot, because truthfully, that was a huge part of my experience and life so far. And the day I brought that back and decided, okay, I'm going to this is going to be part of my conversation as people ask who I am or what I do or have done, it was really cool because my friend actually introduced me as a pilot to the chief of police, and after and we had just a great conversation. And after the conversation, my friend apologized for not knowing if she could do that. And it was really neat because I got to talk to her about, that's really funny. I really made that decision today that that is part of who I am. And she was like, good, because I like to do it because I'm proud of you. I don't know many women pilots. And it was a really neat perspective to receive that. And when we're in these conversations, the biggest thing that I've learned is to be present, to receive the information, to receive what people are actually talking about, to not get ahead and answer questions before I actually really hear them. And it's been a practice, and I've had to develop it because really no one teaches us this stuff. And so, the last thing that I would have to say is don't be afraid to fall on your face, because there's going to be a lot of trial and error, just like in learning to walk, right? I remember a conversation where, I was just uncomfortable, but, that part of me took over, just saying whatever. And as I'm listening to myself, watching the person's reactions, and then understanding that whatever is coming out of my mouth right now is like an inappropriate innuendo, and I'm trying to stop the stream of, it was actually probably pretty good, but just the wrong crowd, the foot going in my mouth. All I could do after that, clearly it ended the conversation, but after that person walked out was, wow, okay. All I could do was laugh and admit that, wow, I probably am not going to be invited back next year to this party. So, we all we all are in a trial and error, and really, laughter is sometimes the best medicine. So, as I was thinking about this topic, I think it was such a big one for me, because at some point we have the ability to touch people's lives. And I think what we're looking for is that opportunity to connect, an opportunity to meet people. All the examples I gave were of longer term experiences. But if we think what a conversation or a deep connection looks like, we're missing out of those 5-minute interactions with someone who comes in and drops a piece of information that truly gives us goosebumps and is a message for us, such as, in one of my examples of just being open to receive from a fellow who was walking by an event, and he just dropped in, and after I shared some information with him, he turned around and told me, keep up doing what you're doing, it's better than the alternative. And that 5-minute conversation has stuck with me for 9 months. And I wrote down that sentence because I knew that was a key, just to keep me motivated. And I know I will probably never see that person again, but they played a huge role in my life. And, he's been thanked many times. And so I encourage you to be present. You have the ability to touch people's lives in ways that you have no understanding for. And if everything I talked about is hard or seems overwhelming to practice, just start your day with just making eye contact with people and saying hello and smile. That you have no idea how that seeing people can just ripple out into the world. So hopefully, if you have any practices that you do or share, I am totally open on how I can expand and grow myself, and I'm excited to see the conversation that ensues. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to our next conversation. Cheers.